Welcome back to another hour of Scotch Hour. I'm Noah.
And I'm Jesse.
All right, this is episode 89.
89.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a little while now, like a little over a year and a half, right? Almost going on to 2 years. And this fine evening, we are going to try the next bottle in the Kirkland lineup of the Kirkland Islay. From there, we got our get-togethers and shout outs, as well as our restaurant review, which is Los Dos Potrillos. Is that how you pronounce it?
I always call it Los Dos Potrillos, but
Potrillos.
Who knows? Potato taco.
I don't speak Spanish. I don't speak Mexican.
Oh, dear God. Episode 89. Edited.
And then our smart challenge is the movie review of yesterday.
Scotch Reviewed.
All right. Well, as they have done and have been very elusive with Costco, and their Kirkland signature scotches have been very secretive, which, kind of at some point, I think that almost is something Scotland should get involved in. Like, maybe I'm going to write Scotland like, hey, bro, you guys protect all of this. Where's this from? If a scotch is a single malt scotch, has to come from a single distillery, shouldn't that also be part of the legal inclusion of this is a single malt from la 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 la, not just one of 100 islands and islets off of the coast of Scotland. So we do have an Islay single malt Scotch whiskey from Kirkland. Sounds pretty good. They've mentioned that it is aged in or matured in oak casks. I don't know if is that like the younger way of saying things or like a millennial way of saying things. I was matured in an oak cask versus like, dude, I grew up and I got old in an oak cask. Matured in oak casks. And then also, how many oak casks? Like, I was matured in oak casks. Well, how many casks did you go through? I feel like this is an Anchorman version. I didn't find this, but did you see what it was aged in? Was it American oak? I could not find. Just
were they
aged in
bourbon casks, sherry casks? Like what do we know? We don't know anything.
I couldn't. Again, Costco and Kirkland have been able to keep a tight lip on a lot of the details about their scotches.
Well, I wonder if that's something like that's kind of normal for Alexander Murray's company, because that's who it's from. That's who distributes it, right? Mm-hmm. And I know they do like a lot of these like
AMCO.
They do a lot of these like off-brand labels and stuff for like these other for other companies or whatever. So I'm kind of curious, like why they don't like give that kind of information out. So maybe we should petition Scotland, like you said.
My only question is, why wouldn't the distillery itself ask for or demand that?
That's a good question, but maybe it's because maybe in this case, Kirkland, which is Costco here, maybe they buy such a large batch that they're able to sell for lower than what maybe the brand name would have been. Possibly, I don't know. Kind of like what they do with like generic stuff sometimes. Not saying that this is generic or anything, but I'm just saying.
We've got your top end sugar and everything else. Would you like to buy some generic?
All right.
No, I actually want the top end sugar this week.
So the things that we do know, it's from Islay. It's 50% ABV. Because it's from Islay, probably has a decent peat to it, some smoke, maybe that whole Band-Aid type smell. Possibly. We don't know yet.
We're going to find out.
All right. You guys have anything else you want to say? It doesn't come in a canister, so there's no canister, just like the other one didn't. Is it time to pop it open?
I think it's time to pop it open. They do use a darker glass, so it is somewhere in that realm of the glass greenish brown color that you would see in a Lagavulin Offerman or matured Lagavulin Scotch. And the bottle a little shorter, stouter, Bunnahabhain, possibly Bruichladdich. Lots of different possibilities here. But the one thing that really does stand out absolutely is that 50% ABV.
also noticed like on this one, like with the space side, it had like the glass that was kind of like embossed right. This one doesn't, right?
This one does not, but you also didn't pay the extra penny for that.
I think that one was like $69.
Yeah, a lot of extra pennies.
And this one here is like $39 at Costco. All right.
Which is interesting because that's another thing to consider. When people are buying and truly investing in Scotch, what are you willing to pay a pretty penny for? And are you more interested in that super peaty Ardbeg sometimes, or the very peaty, more leathery Lagavulin always, or also just some of those great barley balanced scotches, the Glenmorangies, or actually the list goes on forever. And then there's Macallan, the Dalmore. They kind of include a lot of those things, never going super heavy on the peat or smoke, but absolutely tasting and testing all of that wood. That's what she said. All right, let's pop this bad boy open.
All right. I don't know like what else we're gonna say. I've just been waiting for you to pop it open. It's like I don't know how much more time we can kill on this.
We've killed a lot of time. So with this, it is said with the little bit you can read on the bottle that it is a well-balanced, creamy, cereal-forward Scotch with peat flavors. So I'm anticipating a little bit of Band-Aid smell here, reminding me of when I replaced the garage door opener. We're going to find out.
Is it plastic or wood?
It's wood.
All right.
She likes it wood. That's real there. That's natural. That's organic. Not a whole lot of smoke, but we got a little bit of peat. Yesterday seems so far away.
I think you gave me a heavier pour than normal.
Yeah, dude. By the end of this subject, real cork, real wood. I like the fact that they actually stained it or painted it, one of the two, but invested the extra penny to get a tight seal.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get on to our tasting and off to our warp speed. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, so Kirkland, Islay, or Islay. Nailed it.
This is the Islay. Islay.
Islay.
I like to lay.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the punishments you had as a kid, like taking a nap, things you look forward to as an adult. Right?
Yeah, I guess so.
You're going to make me go to bed early? No! As an adult. What do you mean I have to stay up? God damn it. Punishments reverse. That's real karma there.
All right, so here's some of my tasting notes for this Kirkland Islay. 50% ABV. So when I first look at it, I'm saying it's like probably like a light brass color or a light golden color. And also I believe it's a little bit, as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of a light to medium body. And when I do look at the bouquet, or when I smell it here, I'm getting like, and it's kind of weird because I'm getting kind of like different notes here. When we first opened it up and you poured it and you gave it to me, I got peat, custard, light honey. But then when I poured it into my hand and I kind of rubbed it in my hand to kind of like bring out some of the other heats. I got like hints of floral, and it reminded me of like a dusty barn in a way. And as it kind of continued to open up, as we were kind of tasting and stuff like that, it almost really reminded me of going to like a lake or a pier of some sort. And like that smell you get from like that, from like the wood that they build those piers out of, and it's just been like soaking up that that water. It kind of gives me like a little bit of that wet wood from like a pier that's been hanging out in the water for a while. So that's kind of like what I get there on the nose. On my palate, here what I got is mild peat and it coats your mouth. So I guess like this creamy, silky kind of feeling to it into my mouth. And like I said, I get mild peat with some chocolate, dark cherry, and cereal. And as far as the finish is, in the finish, I get like a hint of ginger or something kind of spicy. I think it's ginger, but I'm not like 100% sure about that. But then I also get some some peat and some. I'm not sure if it's really smoke or more ash. There's like a difference between like when you smell like ash versus when you smell smoke, but it's somewhere between ash or smoke, or maybe a little bit of both. And like I said, like a little bit of ginger, and it's like, to me, it's like a medium finish. It's not like a long lingering finish, and it's not a finish that like ends right away. Price point is, like I said, at Kirkland or at Costco, it was $39.99. Yeah, I guess it's if you want like an everyday kind of Islay, I guess you can go with it. But to me, it doesn't really seem to have like that total Islay feel to it, where you have a little bit more peatiness to it. I think the peat here is a little bit more mild. It's a decent one. Would I take it to a poker game? Sure. I wouldn't mind sharing it with some friends at a poker game. Would I take it to a nice event? Definitely not. And as like an everyday type of drink, I wouldn't mind. It would be okay. It's not going to be my go-to. Would I recommend it for someone to go purchase? Yeah, I wouldn't give it as a gift, but if you're just looking to have like an everyday scotch or one that you're going to cook with, I think this would be decent.
I hate to say, I dig it.
you dig it?
I literally am thoroughly.
Sure enough.
Sure enough.
Does it have the glow? You remember that movie, The Last Dragon? Sure enough.
Was it The Last Dragon?
Yeah, the black guy.
What's his name?
I don't remember. But like, what is the
something Lee, like, right?
Leon?
Leroy James.
Leroy James.
Leroy James, I got the glow.
Sure enough.
Sure enough.
Wasn't it the bad guy? That was the bad guy, right? And all of his people saying "show enough" all the time.
Oh, sure enough.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. I'm actually digging it, and here's what I don't
Dig
like.
it. Life's a garden.
That's right, man. Here's what I don't like about digging this scotch is that the bottle is cool. The cork and topper, cool. The label, the lack of canister, and I think the canister is what would have really completed this for me. Part of me thinks Costco is obviously marketing well. You mentioned they sold a pallet of this stuff in like a week.
Yeah. There's only 3 boxes left, and like 2 weeks ago, they're a full pallet.
I can't be the only one who would pay a couple extra dollars for a box that would cost them an extra $1. Increasing their profit 100% on that portion of it. If you're questioning my math, just go to any study and realize how much you're paying for that gift bag, 60+% markup minimum. With that though, it's just like, okay, all right, not loving any of that. Man, the color is another thing. I'm not totally digging the color. For a scotch that is a 50% ABV that is from Islay, that you can tell has been at least somewhat smoked and definitely has peat, the color makes me think it was most likely very quickly chill filtered. Losing some of that rich caramel color. But my fear then is, what flavor did they lose if they did that? That would be my only fear. So with that very light gold color, it's not my favorite. I don't mind that. You get to the nose. Here's where this like knocks my socks off. Right from the get-go, I get strong brine. And then I'm not a huge Cheerio eater, but I definitely get that Cheerios cereal smell. That literally, as I take a deep breath of this, transitions from brine to Cheerios to peat with a little bit of smoke. And then it finishes up with smoke and oak. Like charred oak. Here's where this really starts to get crazy to me. Has so many similarities to me as the Lagavulin Offerman edition, which is twice the price. Because you got the brine, you've got the peat. Like, was this just not the batch that worked out for their goal? But they're like, man, this is still worth something for sure. For sure. On the palate. Right off the bat, heavy peat, but it's that briny peat. It's that peat that they talk about when you think about Islay being one of 100 islands and islets off the coast of Scotland. And Lagavulin, man, you got Lagavulin, Bruichladdich, Bunnahabhain, Ardbeg. Some of these scotches taking advantage of the fact that these Atlantic waves are beating across the edge of the 1.8 billion year old rock, taking that salt and mineral up into the air, freezing as it evaporates because the other side of the island's enjoying the Gulf Stream, which is bringing in warm air, evaporating the water, dropping in the salt and minerals into the peat, giving it that unique flavor. It's doing it a lot of goods. Rich. Creamy, yes. You mentioned creamy. Caramel, yes. Absence of vanilla, which is surprising. I get zero vanilla. Once you get past that creamy, peaty, caramel start, fills into, here's where it gets fun. Very layered for me with barley. More creamy caramel. A hint of lemon ginger as these flavors roll from the front to back of my tongue. All of a sudden, the front of my tongue lights up with a almost tea flavored lemon ginger. And then it finishes with, and this is where I dig it. Like I just licked a leather coat or a leather glove or a leather something. And it's stuck on my tongue and I dig it.
Life's a garden.
Would I take it to a poker game? Yeah, for fun. Absolutely. The price point, screaming a deal. Am I taking it to impress someone? Not if they are a connoisseur, but if they are not, absolutely. And again, like the only thing that really leaves me wanting is the presentation.
It's time for our shout-outs.
My shout-out goes to George Hamilton. Beautiful presentation of talent in Sao Paulo, Brazil this past Formula One weekend. Great job taking home the W and well earned. You had some stiff competition and you still out-peated them. So good job. How about yourself?
Well, my shout out goes to Amazing Polly. She's a YouTube, well, not a YouTube creator, but she's on Rumble and some other stuff. And I don't know, she does a lot of digging into things where she just follows the money and the people who own companies and stuff, and she like finds some of the weirdest things. So if you are ever curious to, I guess, listen to her one of her podcasts or whatever, I'd recommend it. She really found this last one I listened to. It had to deal with like an ingredient and something that some people had to take due to mandates and stuff. And the supposed ingredient, she went to go research where the ingredient came from, came across this company. When she looked into the ownership of this company, she found out this guy who supposedly owns the company or came up in the top of the search list when she Googled it, happened to father 400 kids. And that's not the crazy part.
This is Don Juan DeMarco status. I'm just saying, if you haven't seen the movie, watch it. Johnny Depp, always a legend.
But that's not even the crazy part. The crazy part is that this guy that she ends up finding who might be the owner of the company is actually connected to the guy who developed CRISPR-Cas9 that does the DNA altering stuff. And both of these guys are actually connected to Jeffrey Epstein. And it's just some weird connections there that she found. Anyway, she does this like with a lot of other things too. She has some pretty good digs in some certain topics. Other topics she does some digs in. I don't know. It's a little bit more questionable. But she always, like, whenever she does her digs, she always provides all of her resources of where she looked and stuff, so that way people can look at it for themselves and come up with their own decisions. But anyways, I just want to give her a shout out because regardless if you agree with her or not, I think it's kind of cool that she's out there doing those digs, sharing it with people, and then providing the resources. All right. Any other get-togethers for you?
My only get-together is for anyone who didn't vote during this past election. I wish you would have just taken the few moments, whether or not the side you would have voted for won or not. Let's get some really important numbers up there. Hey, you looked into it and you cared, and you actually are taking a stance. You're planting a root to father a future or grow a future. Maybe 400 of them if you're looking at Noah's most recent tale of trysts.
Well, that's funny that you say this because my get-it-together happens to be with the elections as well.
Oh, my God. It's a couple weeks in a row now, and we don't even talk beforehand.
So my get-together has to do with the U.S. elections. Guys, how can we find a winner of the lotto in a matter of 4 hours, but we cannot get an answer to who won on election night over 4 days? And on top of that, anytime that a vote has gone over 4 days to be determined, the Republicans are zero. They never won. So anytime, if it's under 4 days, Republicans win. If it's over 4 days, and if it takes over 4 days to find out a result, the Republicans have shot a big goose egg. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I'm just saying, how is it that it takes us more than 4 days to count all the votes in an election when we can find the winner of a lotto ticket in 4 hours?
Los dos Potrillos. Like Chileno, los dos Potrillos.
Yeah, I don't speak Mexican or Spanish or whatever.
Right
I'm going to sound like an ignorant American. I don't speak Mexican or I don't speak Spanish because it's really Spanish.
Thank God he's a minority. People do not get offended. He is not white.
Part
doesn't count. Don't soil my scotch.
But, when you pull up there, the parking lot in the evening time, especially during the wintertime when it gets dark at 4 o'clock almost. It's actually 4:45, 5 o'clock. It starts getting dark in all reality. But by the time you get there to the parking lot, I think we met up there around 5:30. It's dark outside. You mentioned this, once again, the parking lot is not well lit. When you go inside, the foyer area is not all that great. It's, it has a little round thing. There was no one really manning it, but they did show up maybe a few moments after I walked in. To the one side, you have the bar area, which doesn't look too bad. It has a couple of booths, a bunch of high top tables, and an actual bar area. And then the other side is the restaurant side, which seemed kind of open, but it didn't. I don't know. It just seemed the restaurant side. We didn't sit in that side, so I didn't really take a really good look on that side. But it didn't really look all that great from what I remember. Appetizer wise, obviously most Mexican restaurants, they start you off with chips and salsa. The chips were pretty decent. They seem like they make their own chips there. I could be wrong though. The salsa was a little bit on the kind of tomatoey, like maybe a little bit soupy, tomatoey type with a lot of garlic. I've definitely had better salsa, in my opinion. Then for appetizer, we had the ceviche, which actually was pretty decent. I've had better ceviche. This wasn't the worst ceviche I've ever had either. But it was decent. I mean, for $18 though, I'm not really sure I would normally buy the ceviche as an appetizer in the future there. As far as the meal went, I had ordered the Mexi burger. And the Mexi burger was done slightly bit different than most other places I've been to. They had like a layer of rice, beans, and 2 hamburger patties, and then they just folded the tortilla over it. So it kind of looked almost like a person who tried to make a quesadilla but really screwed up. And then they smothered it with the green chili and melted cheese and put some lettuce and tomatoes there on the side. Did it taste good? Yeah, it tasted pretty decent. Not the best Mexi burger, not the worst Mexi burger. Once again, it was just so-so. So as far as the food that I had here, I'm just going to give the food a rating of about a 5. It was nothing special, nothing bad. 5's middle of the road. The service though, I thought the waiter actually did a really good job. So I'm going to give him like a 7. Atmosphere, I'm going to give that about a 6. And so really, I guess overall I'm going to give it like a 6.5. And I think there's like potential. Maybe, they had like a nice, they had a lot of choices on their menu. So maybe I just ordered the wrong thing. And so
the cheese is old and moldy. Don't be styled on you for more.
So with that, that's why I'm going to give it a 6.5 because I think it has a little bit more higher potential there. Would I meet a friend there? I don't think I would in the future. Would I take a date there? No, I would not take a date there. It's not even like the first Mexican restaurant I would go to here in the area. I'd go to El Mariachi's first, or I'd go to Real de Minas. One of those two would be my first 2 options, probably in the area that we're in. So overall, I'm not giving this place a high remarks. The one thing that I did not partake in, but you did point out, is that they do brew their own beer. So that might be one plus there, especially if the beer tasted well. That might be worthwhile going there. And like I said, I probably will go there one more time and just try something else on their menu because I probably ordered the wrong thing.
All right. So when Noah talks about us driving up to Los Dos Potrillos in Parker and it being dark, we're talking about someone's getting assaulted in the parking lot and you can't see who's screaming dark. It's bad. Again, this is about safety, ladies and gentlemen. I don't understand it. As I left, I actually passed the other 2 finer dining establishments to go and see, am I losing my mind or was Red Robin and McDonald's lit up better just on the other side of the parking lot? Oh no, they are. You buy a $2 hamburger off their value menu, you get full lights. You're spending $18 on a Mexi burger. You got no light. It's dark. So maybe it's a new thing. I don't know. Definitely cost cutting. I think there is a loss of attention to detail. And I don't question or wonder why when we were in there, I did not see a single couple that was there before us and was still there while we were leaving. They were turning tables like crazy. And I think that's just it. I think it's a quick fix and people are getting out. And that is not the establishment that long-term I am enthralled by. So, Los Dos Potrillos, I had the combo number 18. Came with a taco, a guacamole tostada, and a crispy relleno. My dinner was good. After the appetizer, which, the appetizer $18, my dinner about $18, and a couple of beers, man, my dinner became a date. I was like, I was looking at Noah asking, how did I just spend $50 on a dinner at a Mexican food restaurant? I know inflation has played some roles in that. Apparently it's only up 8%. So that should only be $4, not the $20 I paid. I mean, You guys can tell me if you believe in these inflation numbers. I currently do not, if that is the case. However, my food did taste really good. I had zero complaints about it. I thought the chips were okay. The salsa, very heavy on the garlic, I loved. So the chips and salsa were a win. Man, can't go wrong with a little bit of fish and shrimp. So the appetizer was a win. My dinner was a win. For me, the food was a solid 7. Here's what I'm going to say was surprising. I visited other Los Dos Potrillos establishments, and I had never considered it. And I think part of it is this whole piece of, would I want to go and meet a date there when it's dark in the parking lot? And I'm like, hey, I don't value your safety. Come on in, whatever. No, that was the biggest turnoff to me. The internal ambiance really wasn't sexy either. So, oh man, between atmosphere and environment, it's got a 5. I would feel safer and enjoy it more at a Taco Bell. And I am not being dishonest. One way I think about these things is, what I want when we talk about meeting a friend somewhere, would you want your kid to meet you there? No, it's not safe. I didn't feel like this was a good environment. So because of that, that was their biggest opportunity. I thought our waiter did a nice job. I think he was definitely trying, not taking anything away from him. There was this, 10-minute stint when I was waiting for my beer. Besides that, he was great. The food came out lickety split, which means different things to different people, apparently. For me, ultimately, the service was a 7. Overall rating, it's a 7. Actually, it would be closer to a 6.5. But for me, the value was not there. So that's what's going to change. It's going to be a 6, just because of the value. What I would get at a Taco Bell between safety, meeting someone there or not there, any of those things. Again, would I meet a date there during the day? Absolutely. A friend there during the day? Absolutely. My kids during the day there? Absolutely. But we went at night. And when we say at night, we're talking about 5 p.m. in November, shortly before Thanksgiving, and I would not want to meet any of those people there at that time. It wasn't fun. That was what was lacking, was any where's the excitement? It wasn't there.
Smarter Challenges.
All right, this week's Smarter Challenge was a movie review of the movie Yesterday. For just a real quick synopsis on Yesterday, and I guess we'll dive in here. Yesterday, it's a movie about the Beatles, kind of. So what happens is that there's this guy who's a failing musician, and as he's riding his bike home one evening, the whole world goes dark, and he gets smacked by a bus in the middle of the darkness, and he gets smacked. I don't know. I won't say ran over, because it didn't go over him. He just went flying. But in any case, when he comes to the next day, he's missing 2 front teeth, and the whole world no longer knows the Beatles. At this point, he's talking to his friends. He finds out they don't know who the Beatles are. He talks to other people. They don't know who the Beatles are. And so he starts singing the Beatles songs, and everyone thinks he's the greatest musician on earth, when before he was just a failing artist. Then from there, he has I don't know if it's some kind of a moral crisis or not, but then he ends up telling everyone that he lied, that he didn't write the songs, and ends up giving up his music career to go after the woman that has been behind his back for most of his life, and encouraged him to be a musician. But when he did find success as being a musician, left him. So any case, that's kind of where it ends up. And supposedly at the very end, him and the girl get together, and they have a happy marriage with happy kids. And his best friend, who's kind of a somewhat loser, is hanging around with them watching the kids.
Kind of somewhat, dude. Ditch that thing.
I actually like Rocky. I thought he was kind of a funny character.
That is something I would keep secret.
I think he was a funny character. But in any case,
he was.
All right. So, do you want anything? Do you want to add anything to the synopsis there?
I mean, a couple things to remember here. This is a 2019. I don't know if it's really a romantic comedy. I don't know that it's really intended to be comedy at all, but it's an interesting film done by Danny Boyle, well known for Slumdog Millionaire, Trainspotting, and then T2, Trainspotting 2. And I think he's got some really important messages here, which is what he's going after. He wrote and directed it. Again, Danny Boyle. And with that, I think that is the important part here to remember you're starting a journey on with this gentleman, because the whole story is not a draw to me. But at the same time, the story morality is interesting to me. So really, that's the biggest thing I would say. You know, like, I wasn't fond of many of the characters. There were two I loved. Lily James, who played Ellie Appleton, his original manager and also the love of his life, even though he didn't realize it for, was it 20 or 27 years? Dude, you are a fail. If you can't load a gun and fire in 20 or 27 years. And then really the star of this movie to me, beyond everything else, is Ed Sheeran.
Yes, he was. And I was going to actually go there, but that's the reason why I asked you if you had anything else for the synopsis. But yes, those two actors did a great job in that movie. The director, another one that, like, one of my favorite movies that he did was The Beach with Leonardo DiCaprio. I like that movie a lot. He also did 127 Hours with that guy who had to cut off his arm. Any case, but yeah, you're right. Ed Sheeran, Sheeran, is that I don't even know how to pronounce his name right.
I call him Sheeran, but
Ed
I don't
Sheeran.
know that that's right.
Okay, Ed Sheeran. I think you're probably right. I always screw up everyone's names anyway. So Ed Sheeran, I think he did a phenomenal job in that movie. And like you, this was not typically a movie. Like, I knew it came out in the theaters. I didn't want to go see the movie. I don't know how I came across this movie originally. I think I was maybe sick or something, and I was just like watching, like I was watching HBO and it popped on, and I thought it was entertaining. And I think one of the drawbacks for me here, and I think it might be the same for you, is I'm not a Beatles fan. And since this movie is really about the Beatles and their music, I wasn't like, I don't hate the Beatles. I'm not one of those type of people who hate the music or despise it, to where like I know there's some people who hate them so much, like even when the music like comes on the radio, they have to like change the radio station or change the television when they're playing that kind of music, their music on there. I don't dislike their music that much. I can't appreciate like the influence that they had in the music industry, but overall, I'm just not a big Beatles fan. And I think you have the same kind of thoughts about the Beatles.
I have not been a huge Beatles fan. I can tell you, though, here's a twist.
Okay.
Listening to some of the songs at this particular stage in my life. So I'm not a young female, never have been. But I'm more matured and considering multiple perspectives when listening or enjoying any media. That can be a movie or an opera or a ballet, and considering different perspectives as opposed to just my perspective. When you're young and you watch a movie or a ballet, at least when I was young and I watched a movie, ballet, listened to a song, it was always about my perspective. Now I do any of those things, including listening to music, and I'm thinking there's two sides to this song. And am I considering the multiple perspectives? Dude, the Beatles, I'm still not like, yeah, let's go listen to the Beatles. It's another Beatles day. It's Thursday. No, not that at all. But all of a sudden, really considering the multiple perspectives and the different needs from different individuals, females versus males being the prime selection here. No, it's no wonder they were a hit. They were speaking to a different piece, not to my piece when I was young, but to a piece was, and yesterday, the title as one of the Beatles songs, brilliant. Really ties into that. And again, like now that I'm not, now that I'm over 21 years old, I'm like, okay, man, what was it like being 18 a few years ago? That was great.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
cut you
you're
off.
good. You're
Okay.
good.
I was going to say, I think you pointed out something here that I didn't really realize, but most of the people who I know that really do like the Beatles are all women. And most of the people who I know who don't like the Beatles are all guys. I never really put that together.
No, like it was the first thing that came to mind. And, last night you came in and I was rewatching it and I rewatched the whole thing because there were pieces where I was in and out and I was like, what is it that's really striking to me and making me re-enjoy or actually enjoy some of these songs? And I was like, oh my God, even in the audience, even the movie was shouting out, men weren't loving these songs. Men were loving women who loved these songs because women were getting hot and bothered and then men were getting fun. So with that, it was really an interesting piece. Yeah, that what I will say is, though, but listening to the songs throughout, I actually did find I'm not saying I went from like, oh, I liked Beatles a 1 and now I'm a 10. No, I'm saying like, I liked Beatles a 3 and they probably did bring me up to a 4 or a 5 because I was considering some of these songs and just putting myself in, okay, I got a daughter who's 18. She's thinking more about some of these things than I am. Man, you were brilliant. Just saying. That was actually smart playing to the sexes.
Yeah. As far as like the movie, I guess the first thing here I have listed is like, what's your favorite part of the movie? I'll go.
Oh my God.
I'm going to go. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first. This is your smarter challenge. You go first. That way I don't steal any more of your thunder. Because I wasn't trying to wreck it earlier.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I think it actually went well. So, I'd say like one of my favorite parts of the movie, but I don't like the song that he picked. It was when they're in Russia and he's
back to the USSR.
And then afterwards, they had kind of like a writing contest. And that was like one of my favorite parts of the movie. It was just kind of fun how they did it and everything like that. And it had Sharon. I don't think he should have gave it because I actually think his song was better than the one that Malik actually wrote and played.
Well, the Malik didn't actually write.
Well, yeah.
I
guess
think
better than the one he chose to play.
I think here's what's important to consider about that moment. Because if I'm living in 2022, or even when this movie came out in 2019, I agree with you. But when you think about the audience that was voting and the fact that they weren't, the movie disassociates from 2019 when it was filmed, when it was released. It associates with decades earlier and it's bringing in different pieces. And that's ultimately why Jack's song wins, is because the group listening is like, oh my God, that was in so much more depth. Here's the fact of the matter, though. Modern society isn't looking for necessarily, and I'm not saying, don't take this the wrong way, current generation, listen to current music. You're not necessarily looking for something as deep. And that's not wrong. It's otherwise you'd all be listening to Yellow Wolf and some really like serious, I mean it like serious rap, not trash rap, but rap that's about like, oh man, this is multi-generational. And again, going back to why my fondness for the Beatles grew with this film was just that they were speaking to more than themselves. They weren't just being selfish. They were being smart. They were, oh man, this is sick to say. They were actually being sexy. It's hard to say, but I loved the scene you're talking about in a different reason, in a different way, and we can definitely come back to that. But I absolutely loved that scene, but I understood why at the end, because I agree with you. Ed Sheeran is probably one of my top 3 favorite current living modern artists, and he's brilliant. And he wrote a good song. But the fact that he concedes was weird to me also.
Yeah.
Because obviously it was for the movie.
Obviously it's for the movie. So what was your favorite scene?
Man. Okay, I want to tie 2 together.
Okay. You don't want to do like a top and then a runner up?
No, because I want to come back to a different piece.
Okay.
And so what made my favorite scene of the movie, my favorite scene in the movie is my second favorite scene in the movie. When I subtract what you were just talking about with it's basically you got 10 minutes to write a song. We're having a song off, right?
Yeah, right.
A write-off, though. It wasn't really even about the performance, which I think is also far more important than people can consider, because otherwise Ed Sheeran 99 times out of 100 won that contest without a doubt. Now, you have Jack's parents.
Right.
Jack goes and he's about to play and go possibly make some big money. And he's been rewriting Beatles songs, pretending they're his own. And his parents are like, oh yeah, why don't you play one of our songs? So what I love about this scene is only that it feeds into my actual favorite scene. Otherwise, it disgusted me to my core.
I think I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, he's trying to play one song for his mom and his dad, and they won't stop talking. The doorbell keeps ringing. They keep answering the phone, and they give him zero respect.
Yes.
And he literally finally leaves, and he doesn't even have to storm off because they don't care. They literally... And what I mean by this is at the end, they're just like, yeah, you're a loser. Nothing you were going to say was important anyway. We don't really support you. These are all things I think that have led to the current Gen Z status of I'm about feelings, is because you didn't just give them, hey, slow your roll. You want 3 solid minutes. Give us 1 minute to get prepared. That would be fair. The parents were weak. He wasn't strong. And then ultimately later on in the movie, his second manager, not the love of his life or potential love of his life, Kate McKinnon plays Deborah Hammer. I love that name too. I'm Deb. Just call me Deb Hammer. But she plays Deb Hammer, and she looks at the parents at one point when he's made it huge. He's at that point. He's at that precipice. He's like bursting. He's giving a shower of babies to anyone who wants them. And she's like looking at his parents, and she's like, when did you realize you weren't, worthy of your son, that your son was so much better than you, that you guys are basically dirt to him? And I don't remember exactly how she phrased it, but it was so pungent and beautiful, and the dad's enjoying the moment, and then he actually has to face it for 1 second. And I loved that. That was the most impactful scene to me ever, because I think every kid goes through that with their parents. And I don't know that my parents ever did that a lot with me, but I know there was at least one point in time where I needed attention and I didn't get it. And it wasn't that I asked for it, but they intended it. And then later on, it's just like, I don't care anymore. Like it's that whole cat in the cradle and the silver spoon, it's like you had your chance.
Right. I think it was something like, when did you realize you were not worthy of your son?
Bingo. And that is 100% poignant and pungent. Were they worthy?
I don't think they were. Now with the way how they treated him, because they were like, I thought you were going to give up. I thought we agreed that you're going to give up music.
Right.
And he's like, well, no, I got some new songs I want to try out for obvious reasons, because no one remembered the Beatles, which, whatever. But
it was... Those two scenes together made one piece of the movie to me that was the most impactful. And I think it goes beyond if you're conscious of what the meaning here. Again, you're talking about Danny Boyle, Slumdog Millionaire. You mentioned a lot of his other movies that are very impactful movies, not necessarily grand slams in the box office or the theater, but very impactful movies. And the real saying here is you have moments in time with everyone, but particularly those that you love or are supposed to, or fathered or mothered. Are you taking the time? Are you making the most of that? And the answer for most people is, if they're honest, no. And I don't know that I always do either.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, because I think we often take people for granted, and we don't take the time sometimes to give them that quality time for whatever it is that they want to share or to talk about, or a lot of times I think our society, the way it's been built, has made us so to where we have like micro attentions.
Much like microaggressions.
Meaning that we don't give anyone, we don't give attention to anything that we should be, or at least not in the amount of time that we need to give attention to.
Here's the interesting tryst. The twisted fate of this movie is you have that. They're giving him zero attention. At the end of the movie, they are 100% involved in loving the fact that their son is a star. Their star is a son. Their son is a star. And I guess technically the words intermingle. But with that, they're 100% invested. And all of a sudden at the end, it doesn't matter. Now, on the flip side, it never mattered to him that this love of his life, Lily James, or Ellie Applegate, was 100% invested with him the whole time. And then all of a sudden at the end, she's like, peace.
See, this is okay. So, all right, this goes into another question here. Okay, so you're right. She, like, at the very beginning, she falls in love with him when he's playing in a high school or junior high.
Apparently
band.
she fell in love with him when they were like 7 or 12 years old. And he's like, that's inappropriate. Slap him.
But in any case, there's a point where he's like, I want to give up playing music. And she's like, no, you can't give up playing music and all that stuff. And she pushes him to play music. But the moment he starts gaining traction, and she basically bails on him. And now I'm not really sure why, like, she makes a comment here because he like writes all these like Post-it notes up on the wall.
He fucked up. He had the wrong name by love. That's not, we've all been there. Just saying.
But he's like thinking of these like Beatles songs and stuff. And so he has these all lined up. And then she wonders, I invested all this time into you, all this stuff. How did I end up in like this other column and not in the love column? And he's all just being focused on like how to like rewrite these songs. And he doesn't really realize, I think, probably until that point, and I don't even think he even fully realized at that point that she loved him.
No, it wasn't until later.
Yeah. It wasn't until like Liverpool.
Literally, you have to hit this guy on the side of the head with a bat.
You do. But even at that point though, I think she, like, I know that she saw like all those sticky notes, but I think she might have jumped to conclusions because she never even really gave him a chance to answer. And in the middle, and she chose the most inopportune time to even mention anything like this. It was right in the middle of a party where everyone's like pulling for his attention, so he could not answer those questions.
Here's the point that I will make that's contrary to that. And what I will say is, suddenly, right there, that's the precipice. That is literally one of the most impactful points of the movie. It's not my favorite. I actually hated that. That scene gave me anxiety because, to your point, his whole family and friends are like, come down. It's speech time. It's goodbye time. You only got a couple minutes. Blah, 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 blah. Wait a minute. All of you wouldn't even listen to me. Give me 30 seconds of your time. Now you want me to commit moments of my life. Could be 3 minutes, could be 30 minutes to all of you. You wouldn't give me that. And now I have the most important person possibly right here in my room asking me for a minute and a really important question. He failed there. It's literally, oh my God.
I'm not saying he passed there.
No.
He definitely did fail, but I also think...
Remember Sprung? The TV show, the one season, one hit wonder, where the guy's like... sitting there and he puts the ring in the hot dog and she swallows it. And the mom walks up. You got to make a choice. He's like, sorry. And she's like, you want your laundry done and your Hot Pockets cooked or her? I'm like, her. And he's like, sorry, it's my mom. Literally, that's what he did right there. It is, and I hate to say it, and I'm not saying I've been perfect. It was pathetic.
I think he's caught up in the moment. Like, he's like, all of a sudden, like all this like fame or whatever kind of like, or this, he's getting swept up in it, and people are celebrating him, even though they did give him time. And I think, honestly, I don't think she did him justice either. popping that question right
I
then.
think she'd had a few glasses of champagne and she was being honest. He wasn't honest. And I'm just going to twist it right there. I'm going to put the fork in and twist it and be like, what would Ed Sheeran would have done? What would he have done? He'd been like, you guys can wait or leave.
Maybe now, but maybe like when he just first got maybe found, maybe not.
Right. But that's where you have to think, like, be the man you want to be, not the man you are.
Well, I think right now, at that point, he was just being swept up.
By his parents who gave him.
I think just by everything. I think everything was just going like light speed for him. So he was just being, in any case.
I agree with you. I think it's a beautifully orchestrated scene that is so ugly, it tears my heart.
Yes. There's actually a couple scenes like that.
I hated to watch it.
I think another like tear up scene like that is like when they're at the train station. Once again, that same kind of thing is happening. He's in Liverpool at the train station.
Get on the bus, or no, get on the plane.
Get on the plane. He has the agent yelling at him, get on the plane, get on the plane. And he's trying to tell her that he loves her, but it's not coming out right because he needed more time and more thought into it. And, you know, she kind of like ghosted that next morning anyway. So,
but the point being, he didn't need more time. He just had to make a choice. It's not a simple choice. I'm not saying I've always made the right choice. I'm just saying from experience, and this is hindsight. And I think this is why it's so important that he goes and visits the old Beetle on the beach, is that it's this piece where it's just like, what really mattered at the end? John Lennon died, but in this new life, he's alive at 82.
Yeah. So, so I guess we'll just jump to my next question here, since you brought that scene up. So when the blackout happens, no one remembers the Beatles, right? Except for maybe a handful of people.
There's like 3 people that we know of on the planet.
And only one of them can write, only one can sing and write music. And not very well at that.
That's yeah.
But in any case, he does it well enough to where he can replicate some of the Beatles songs. But here's the thing. What he did, or I could probably pose this another way, could you do what he did and knowing that the Beatles don't exist, and later on he finds out because of the other 2 people find out that John Lennon is still alive, where in our reality he's
expired.
He's expired. He's dead. And so really, basically kind of like what happened is he kind of jumped like multiverse. He went into like another world or another timeline where the Beatles don't exist, but yet he still remembers the Beatles. So using the Beatles music and actually rewriting it, and also, you know, they make a point that he doesn't actually replicate it exactly. So he messes up some words and changes some things and reorders some words to the best of his knowledge. Could you do that? Would you do that? And then after that, would you give it all up to go back with Ellie?
This is where it gets really complicated in the sense of, what do you want? And this gentleman is supposed to be about 30 years old, 25. Wait a minute. He has to be at least 30 because they had been together since they were 7 or 12.
I would say probably about like 34.
So he's in his mid-30s. Man, I know 34 seems like it's old, but I don't know that most men really know what they want until they're like 40 or 50. And it makes me think of that, Instagram sensation where the lady's sitting there complaining at this guy about how, this study that was done by men shows that men get happier when they get older. Meanwhile, women are the ones that are more spiritual and they live longer. And the guy snaps back. He's like, women like you make men want to die. And I don't think either side was wrong. I think it's just one-sided, and you have to think about both sides in the sense of, hey, man, honestly, spiritual for many men, not necessarily for me, but for many men is, he who dies with the most toys wins, right? So with that, what do you want? What do you really want? And I think where he visits John Lennon as an old dude who's telling him he needs help, which at that point he did, is just that. It's like this old guy who had a wife that just recently passed away. and lived and loved for so long, that was so much more meaningful to any fame or anything else at the end of the day. And that's where he went. He's just like, man, it would be so nice not to worry about money or this or that or the other, but to worry about whether or not I'm going to be alive in 5 years is a whole different story. So for me, I have this struggle where it's not about whether or not it's owned by someone else, but if it's not my art, I don't do it.
So being in his place, you would have never have like sung the Beatles songs. And
If Monet was never there and I could paint his bridge and his lilies, knowing that they weren't mine, it wouldn't be the same. If Van Gogh was never there, if Dolly was never there, if I can paint clocks all of a sudden that are droopy and everything else, or Picasso and Guernica, and these beautiful scenes, but I could be the one doing it. Unlike music, other arts absolutely age out faster, except for literature. Which they leave a little prick in this story for. Would I do it? No, I wouldn't. I would stay the course and try to stay true to my love. But at that same point, here's where it really becomes a struggle: is he loved nothing else.
So I think his number one love was, I think, at first music. And if here's like, I think we're kind of like morally the same in this aspect where I don't want to, like, I won't take credit for someone else's work. And I will like give credit to where credit is due. But if you're in a new multiverse where someone, I think this is where maybe my morals get a little bit more loose than yours. If I'm in a multiverse and I know, like, let's say in his case, like I know how to like write music and sing and play musical instruments, and the Beatles don't exist, and I'm able to replicate the Beatles' music, it's already in my knowledge. I already have it. It's already in my wheelhouse. I can already play it. And if people all of a sudden like start paying me for it or whatever, I don't see anything wrong with it, because even right now you have like tribute bands that play music of people who already wrote music that's already existed, and they make money off of it. So I don't necessarily see it as being totally wrong. I think where it becomes tough is kind of like what you say, like taking full credit for something like that. And even in this case, when he actually talks to John Lennon, knowing Lennon's alive, he never wrote any of these songs in this new world. At this point, it's new music. So even if he did try to give credit to the Beatles, nobody would be able to prove it except for the two other people. And even those two other people, they just look at him as being like total Looney Tunes, because everyone else in the world would not know who the Beatles are. And if they went to go interview John Lennon and Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney, they would.
Any of them were anything. You can't even YouTube those guys. They became nothing.
Exactly. So none of those guys would even be able to like say, yes, we wrote the music. So here, should you, like, if you go to a bar and you're playing like your tribute band, should those tribute bands be paid? Yeah, they should. They're performing. Now, should he have been a superstar? Whether or not he can live with it or not, I don't know. So in my case, I probably would do it. I probably would be okay with it. Here's the one part I don't agree with him on. I don't think I would give up all of that for this woman. I'm single anyways, never been married, so maybe that's part of my askew thought here. But in my opinion, I think he could have had both. I think he could have had her. He could have played the music. I think it was kind of wrong for her in Liverpool in a way to say, you can either play the music or you can come with me, but you can't have both. I think, because to me here, what I'm hearing is you can come with me, live an ordinary life, and I be a teacher, or you can continue with your dream playing music, and I can be with you. She's the one who gave up on him and saying, I have to go teach a class, and you just go on your own to go play in Russia.
I love your poise. So have you never had the opportunity in any of your life to fake it till you make it as a millennial?
As a millennial or as a Gen X? Yeah, I've had
Whichever you are. Which generation you are, because I think the millennials are known for fake it till you make it. So as your generation, have you never had the opportunity to fake it till you make it?
Yeah, I've had an opportunity.
What happened? So did you go big or did you lose?
I guess I lost. I mean, I lost my office, so.
So with that though,
But it really, I think it
the
helped.
point being, he would have lost the music. He also would have lost her.
I don't think so, because you also made another point here. Right? I forget what it was. What did you say exactly?
You can suppose.
Be the man that you want to be.
Yes.
So being the man you want to be, one can also rewrite that and saying, fake it till you make it. Because right now he's not the man that he wants to be. So he has to imagine what it would be like to be that man and act like that man.
Being the man you want to be versus pretending to be a man are two different things.
I'm not faking it till you make it is not necessarily it depends on how you want to view that. So if you use like the actual words, yes, then
So
you're faking
he
it.
was not writing any of those songs. He was faking.
He actually was writing those songs because he didn't write them in the right order. He had the right tune, and he made it. He put new words in there.
He did not become. He would, as he knows, he was not the creator of those.
Yeah, over 1 billion other people will say otherwise.
Doesn't matter. He knows, as came out in the end of the movie. I didn't write any of this. He knows. So his moral conscience
I think here where the movie was being
controlled him.
I think where the movie was being disingenuous is because in this new world, the Beatles don't exist. He signed a contract, and that music industry, those lawyers would have fucking ripped him to shreds, and he would not be able to live that happy lifestyle that they showed there at the end of the movie.
I'm not saying any of that isn't wrong. I'm just saying his own moral code was that he was moral. He wasn't trying to fake it anymore.
And I'm not even saying you have to fake it. I'm just saying you just be like a tribute band. If you get paid for it, you get paid for it.
His morals woke him up. And it's just one of those things where I would love to pretend for one day I have the testicular fortitude, and that's what I will claim that it is, of Elon Musk. I feel like I have a good moral code. I know you have a good moral code. We have good moral codes in my eyes. No, I mean this. The difference is there are these people with testicular fortitude, like in Elon Musk, who are like, I'll have 5 kids with 5 different women. I don't give a flying Tesla. Put one up in space. If you don't know, it's real. It's orbiting the Earth right now. Beautiful thing. Awesome job.
Well, I think you make a good point there about the whole five kids with 5 different women. Because here's the thing, I did not want to get into a serious relationship until I became fully successful in my business, which actually failed. And so I didn't want to put a woman through the heartaches of me building a business and that stuff until I actually made it to the point where I could provide for her and provide for a family. As long as I knew that I couldn't do that with trying to pursue a business of my own, because owning your own business, you have to put all your time and emotion into that until it starts running itself. And so that's one of the, I missed that window of opportunity.
I'm hearing you. I'm just saying window of opportunity is not closed. Also, nothing wrong with finding a sugar mama.
No, nothing is wrong with finding a sugar mama.
So,
unless you're talking about the kingpin.
That's not a sugar mama.
No, that was his landlord.
Where's Jesse? Food poisoning.
You don't have rent again?
At the end of the day, if I was him.
Sorry, totally bad off track thing there. So
I'd risk food poisoning too. You gotta pay the rent. All right. What do I need to eat? All right.
Rotten fish.
It's not rotten. It's just dirty.
Got Munson again.
Yeah, he did. That's so messed up. Literally the story of the movie. Great movie.
So I don't know. I think that's I don't know. Do you have any other like thoughts or questions for me about the movie? Or
You know, at first when you mentioned, I'm like, what the F, flying F, Noah? And then afterwards, I watched it, most of it. Like, again, I wasn't like paying a ton of attention. I'm like, okay, this movie isn't that significant. And then I watched it a second time. And I'm like, wait a minute, there is something to this movie. I watched it last night until 2 in the morning. And Noah's like, I thought you'd be asleep by now, because I closed at work and didn't get home until midnight. And I'm like, well, finishing this movie, not asleep. And I think there are some pretty significant spots. So I think that Doyle did do a justice in writing and directing this film. As much as I didn't, and I still don't care for the main actor, he played his part well. Other characters played their parts well also. I think my summation would be, this is a reality of life where the writer / director, Doyle, is trying to impose upon us. We have to accept it or not. What do we want in life? And I think as parents, my most important piece would be, would you rather be a poor, happy husband and father, or a rich, who knows where it goes, miserable, coked out, cigarette smoking? Also, when the blackout occurs, cocaine and cigarettes disappear, by the way. Those are
there's no Coca-Cola.
Two of my favorite parts of the movie.
Just cigarettes. And no Harry Potter.
Oh my God. Those are some of my favorite parts of the movie. Every time he asks for a Coke, they're just like, It was so funny. It was literally perfect. Well played because of the perceptions of the industry.
Then there's that part. Man, I wish I didn't give up smoking last year. I could really use a cigarette. What's a cigarette?
Yeah, no, I should. You have cigarettes. Can I have a cigarette? What's a cigarette? Bing. Cigarette turkey. Location.
Harry Potter. So really, I mean, like, honestly, like, this guy could have, like, there's multiple avenues he could have made money off of, like, other people's work in this new multiverse.
Here's the bottom line. In my mind, truly, fully, and honestly, is that it all comes down to communication. Life literally comes down to communication. And then once it's been communicating, delivering or not delivering a result or an answer, even for that matter. And with it, this is where the movie gets beautiful to me. Had he just had, or had she just had, to your point earlier about she didn't do this either, she kind of cornered him in many ways. Had they just had a conversation earlier, he could have realized, yeah, this is or this isn't what I want. I can have a full life. In other words, something more than music, a full life playing music, because you're going to always support me. You're a teacher. We can have kids. I'm going to be broke. I'm going to never do anything substantial, potentially never make any money, but you'll front me because you love me that much. Versus, are we willing to risk you going months in time without seeing me? And that means we're rich and we can have kids, but you're going to be growing them up all alone. And those are both realities.
They are totally realities. And here's the thing, like, her occupation, she can be a teacher and go back to teaching. Him being a singer like that and making money and then leaving, there's like less of a probability he can make it back again.
Right. But he had to live with the whole time, which is what comes out at the end of the movie.
Communication's key.
I didn't write any of these songs.
I get that you didn't write any of the songs. Right. Once again,
I think this is the one area in this, we've talked about it now for a while. This is the one area where we do disagree, where we do not agree, is that there was something inside of me that even if I knew I could get away with it, I wouldn't.
And see, I guess where where I differ from you on this is that there's already tribute bands who make money off of people's music already.
Right, but they're also paying royalties. They're not, so
There's no royalties for him to pay. And if he really felt that bad, he could just give like money to
he
Ringo's.
does it at the end. He gives all of the songs away.
He gives all the songs away, but he could have like still made the millions of dollars or whatever. And if he really felt bad about it, he could have set up a fund or whatever to give to Ringo Starr.
Right, but that's where you don't understand. He can't give to them and have them understand. It's just dishonest no matter what, because they don't understand.
I don't think it's necessarily dishonest in this new world.
It's only dishonest to his own moral code. Again, this is where we will agree to disagree, which is, if it's not my art, I'm not going to put it out there as my art.
See, and I get that. I really do.
Even if it's nobody else's art. If I know it's not my art, I'm not going to put it out there.
And like I said, I get that. But if I'm providing the music anyways, it's being compensated for providing that for other people. I'm not like, does he necessarily have to? If he feels that bad, he can just put it all into a charity.
I think the underlying, here's what I'm going to say for my finale as we start to round that corner. For me, the ultimate, and Doyle does a good job with this, by the way. For me, after watching it a second time last night, dram of scotch in my hand, enjoying it, Ed Sheeran, oh my God. I actually listened to 4 of your songs on my way to work today because I was just like, this guy's the man. F this actor in this movie yesterday pretending to be a Beatle. I'm actually disgusted by you for taking any credit away from Ed Sheeran when you're having your write-off. You got 10 minutes to write any song you want. Bam, you got to deliver. And then Ed Sheeran's conceding to a victory because this other guy writes a song he didn't write. That's where this movie lost it for me, is that piece. But I'm listening to Ed Sheeran and I'm just like, beautiful people. That was the first song, and I was just like, man, you acted this song so well, but you didn't dissuade your own moral code from being true to you're still a beautiful person, even in this role where you're acting and being portrayed as someone anything but. He was still a beautiful person, because at the end, he calls him, he's like, hey, Ed, I need this, or he calls him something else, Carl, something weird. He's like, hey, I need this favor. And ultimately, he's telling him, hey, I need to be able to sing a couple songs, I need a little bit of time, blah, blah, blah. I actually believe he told him the whole story, and Ed's like,
okay.
Yeah. Dude, I understand. I've been in this role for so long.
And I think that's what makes his part even that much better in the movie too.
I think it's the one real part in the whole movie.
I can agree with that. Did I ever tell you why I chose this as our Smarter Challenge?
No.
Ed Sheeran. So we were, I think we were coming back from last Monday's night's dinner. I think you were driving, right? Or was I driving? I don't know who was driving, but Ed Sheeran's song came on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's going to be my Smarter Challenge. But I only thought of one movie that he was in, and he was in yesterday, and I liked him in that movie. And I thought the movie wasn't all that bad. And that's how I came up with that as my Smarter Challenge.
Do you remember which song it was by any chance? If not, no big deal. I'm just curious because, like I said, I'm not being dishonest. I'm literally pulling up my recently played because I listened to him this morning.
I think they played the song in the movie.
Right at the end.
Maybe.
I can't remember what that one is. It was not the
something
one.
When I Be With You, or I don't forget. I know I would know it if I heard it. I don't know all of his music all that well, but it was on the radio. Oh, I was driving and we were listening to the hits.
You were driving.
It was like the hits song or whatever, or the pop song that they station that they have on Sirius XM. But in any case, when I heard that song, that reminded me of yesterday, and I'm like, I didn't have a Smarter Challenge pick, so that's how I came up with that pick. So, anyways, I think it kind of like brought like we actually talked about this way longer than I thought we would.
Why? It's an amazing subject. That was one of the things, like, again, I came home last night. I'm like, I need to rewatch this movie. There's something deeper there, and I'm drawn to it.
There's a definitely some deeper messages in there if you really want to take the time to watch the movie. I do recommend, if you've never seen the movie, to watch it, even if you're not a Beatles fan.
It really has nothing to do with the Beatles at the end of the day. However, like I said, it made me appreciate their lyrics more.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll just leave it there. So that being said, what is next week's challenge, which will be Thanksgiving weekend, and what will be the scotch that we will be?
So the next recording will release on Thanksgiving Day.
Yes. I promise that will re-kick our Thursday drops.
This is a tough one for me. But because of that, I really want to pay a tribute to a writer-director that I don't know, much like many of them, have gotten all of the credit he has been due. So next week, the Smarter Challenge is to watch I Confess, Alfred Hitchcock, and then your choice of any other Alfred Hitchcock movie.
Okay.
And or show. Really, most of them are movies, hour and 20 minutes long-ish. I Confess is about a priest. Quick synopsis: that is confessed to and then later accused of a crime and has to morally decide, hey, am I going to tell him the truth? Do I break my rights as a priest, or do I not? So I think that'll be good.
Another moral code movie.
Oh my goodness. It's funny how so many of our shows focus around that. But with that, at the beginning of the show, I want to flip a coin, and I will flip a coin.
Okay.
And there's going to be a choice between two scotches. The first one, to celebrate Thanksgiving, the first option, this will be heads. Dalmore, Alexander III. Tails will be the Dalmore 14. We're not going to go wrong either way. It's just
Definitely
how
not.
right do we go? And then with that, one last piece is just bringing in with that, what is one perfect side dish you would want for Thanksgiving? And so with that, we each get to present a side dish to snack on with the scotch as we're giving our review. Could be something like chips and salsa. Could be mozzarella wrapped prosciutto, vice versa. Any number of things. But one appetizer we would love served with scotch on Thanksgiving.
Sounds good.
Make it simple. Also, it doesn't have to be complicated. I like to overcomplicate things. Mine may be super ridiculously complicated. But regardless of
That
that,
was complicated to say.
that was complicated to say. Regardless of any of that, complicated or not, my mouth's dry. I need some more scotch.
All right. Well, he's sipping there. And
Complicated or not, look at that. It's all wet. Whistle is wet.
now that he wet his whistle, I was going to just say that for those of you who watch us on YouTube, thank you. For those of you who watch us on Rumble, thank you. Our unfiltered and uncensored shows will be premiering on Rumble, whereas YouTube, we have to censor some things. For those of you who do listen to us on Podbean, Spotify, Pandora, or any of the other Audible places to listen to us at, thank you for listening to us. We greatly appreciate that. Hopefully everyone has a wonderful week leading into the American holiday of Thanksgiving. This is that month of being thankful for the things that we have in our life. When every day we should be thankful and grateful for those in our lives, the things that we have, and the prosperity that we do get to experience in our life. With that, I'm going to toss it over to Jesse to close us out.
All right, my whistle is wet. And thank you, Noah, for, as I mentioned earlier, not directly, a smarter challenge that at first I thought wasn't that smart and ultimately was. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it after rewatching it the second time last night. Really, like we're talking about hours ago at this point. Forgone sleep. Worth it. And with that, though, super excited. Definitely remember each morning I wake up, hey, my kids are okay. There's no dire texts. I still am alive. I've got health. They have health. And what's the goal next? Well, next week, again, remember, we're getting super close to Thanksgiving. We are going to enjoy either the Dalmore 14 or, and please be heads, the Dalmore Alexander III.
You're not going to be like Two-Face and have a double-headed coin, are you?
No, man. But I actually considered that. Like, 2 heads would be great because then we get to enjoy this mofo.
2 heads would be great.
I mean, okay, I have 2 heads, but a 2-headed coin would be great. With that, please continue to give us feedback. What do you like? What do you not like? You like that? That's what she said jokes, or you just like the Scotch. This one, if this is the victor next week, Hitchcock, if you prevail, Hitchcock. So interesting. 2 heads. Anyway, Dalmore, King Alexander III. If not, tails, Dalmore the 14th. Again, please give us feedback. Life truly is great. Please drink responsibly. And the biggest thing there is, man, don't drink and drive. That's, find an Uber, find something else. If I was a billionaire, even just a millionaire, I would set up a line in my area, finding you guys rides. I'm not there yet, but, well, I'm not there to spend that yet. Otherwise, life is great.
Before you do that, please like, share, and subscribe.
Like, share, subscribe.
Scotchman! We hope you enjoyed this evening's episode of Scotch Hour. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you have not done so already, please become a Patron member, with memberships starting as low as $1 a month. Thank you, and hopefully you have a wonderful evening.